And I believe we are live. Hi everybody, I'm Gobbo Slayer, and today you will be joining us by, or rather we will be joined by someone you probably know, my good friend Enticity. Hello Enticity.
Hey, what's up?
Thank you very much for joining me on this day as we go over some of our thoughts and experiences in the recent speedrun, or rather endurance run as it was. We have a couple viewers, although I don't know if they're you and me or not, or somebody else watching. But if we get any questions in chat, I will be sure to let you know. So, first off, congratulations on winning the Archon the Black Endurance Run Challenge. Let me turn my music down a little bit.
Well, yeah, thanks very much. What's it? I know you spent a lot of time on it, but Axiom didn't. I think he focused on the Imric run.
Have you spoken with Axiom about it already?
Not really, but usually he's posting a bunch of records when he's tackling a run.
Gotcha, yeah. I assumed he didn't really put the effort in or he was keeping it very secret if he did. And yeah, just kind of looked that way. Oh, am I having some problems with the internet? Hopefully everybody can hear me okay. If you can't, please let me know. But I assume I'm not having any problems with the Discord. It must just be my phone right now. Did we get any comments? We don't have any viewers, but that's okay. We're going through anyways, and video will be available for playback later on. Okay, so going over the details of the run for those who might not be aware or who only followed it briefly. This was the September run hosted by Lore Master of Sotex. It was for September, wasn't it, Enticity?
Yeah, I think it was September. It feels so long ago.
I know
but yeah, it ended September 22nd.
Mm-hmm. And originally it was going to be for Marathi and Archon, and originally you could also recruit units in your attempt to endure as long as possible, but the rules were changed as we went through it. I remember you and I were streaming the first day. You were doing Marathi, I was doing Archon. We put a lot of hours into that first day, and then the rules went and changed on us. You had made it turn 88 or something, right?
Yeah. We both spent like full days just grinding it out.
Yeah, it was yeah, right. I remember I did a full day as Archon and you did a full day as Marathi. I was having fun with it. And it's funny to look back compared to where the run ended up in us using one army and the amount of cheese that I had to deploy, escalated drastically as the army limit went down. I think it took me like 44 turns to get 3 or 4 armies as Tomb Kings and just get to the point where I could start pushing out safely without any danger of losing my capital.
Yeah.
Whereas you can't do that as Marathi, right? Because you didn't have the funds to really recruit multiple armies.
Not until like turn 60.
Yeah.
You basically needed like tier 4 walls, I think, before you could move out.
Yeah, exactly. It seemed pretty difficult. Like I was having, since my walls were at a worse condition, I had to leave a whole army back to defend my city pretty much. But going back to the details of the run real quick, as I get sidetracked just thinking about it and how much it changed, because it did feel like, like you said, it did feel like a long time, didn't it? Between when the run started and when it ended. And
at the beginning it changed like almost daily.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing, right? This was the first endurance style run, and as a result, at least that Sotek has run, and so as a result he was changing the rules while we kind of felt things out. And normally before he'd done speedruns, and you of course won 2 out of the 3 race for Karak 8 peaks. One with Queek and one with Skarsnik, correct?
Yes. And then Axiom took the other 3rd.
Yeah, I remember, and I did a little bit of Skarsnik, in like in my attempt. I think I streamed it a little bit, and so I got a little bit of a feel for what you went through. But yeah, definitely couldn't quite compete with you guys, as I'd only done it a couple of days, and was still kind of trying to get the strategies down that you guys had already mastered. Very
I wouldn't say mastered,
didn't master.
but definitely more familiar with.
Yeah, and this run that we did this month was very, very different in terms of the amount of time and strategy involved. Would you say?
Yeah, like the big difference was just how many runs we actually did. Like, I don't know about you, but I only had a handful of runs. Maybe just like 5, less than 10, I think.
I did have to start over more than you, but I know you didn't have to as much.
Yeah, I didn't do as much of the Ark and the Black runs until I really cheesed it like crazy.
Right, you did have to restart once or twice against the dwarves, but then after that you had that super run to 69, the nice run as we're calling it.
Yeah.
And
but yeah, it's been very different.
Yeah, so for me, I actually enjoyed this style of run over the speed run, and the reason for that is because for me it felt a little bit more like a campaign. You actually were involved with more of the campaign mechanics, whereas the speed run to me felt like more of just beelining, not caring about anything, not even fighting the battles or anything really.
Yep. Yeah, that's correct. For discovering the routes, you needed to know a lot of campaign mechanics, but actually executing it was a whole different experience.
Yeah, exactly. Hi, Daniel. Thanks for the feedback on being able to hear. Let me know if Enticity is not coming through loud enough or anything, because it's fine. He sounds fine on my end. And if you guys have any questions in chat, feel free to drop it, and we'll talk about it. So in terms of the results from this endurance run, Axiom Razor ended up winning the Immerk run, and as we stated near the beginning, Enticity here ended up winning the Archon run. So let's talk about your run first, if that's all right with you.
Sure.
So like you were saying, you started out and you didn't have to restart the run too much. Did you have any thoughts going into your endurance run as Archon the Black versus either based on your experience in Marathi or compared to your speedrunning experience?
I think the main thing was just hearing about your progress through the run. Mm-hmm. So I heard that you were having problems with dwarves. So that was the main thing I planned to tackle.
Yeah, having trouble with dwarves would be putting it lightly. As you discovered, I think.
Yep. but yeah, other than that, just playing some of the other runs and just a lot of campaign in general helped with knowing how to cheese the AI. But then other than that, it was pretty straightforward. Not a lot of I didn't put a lot of thinking going into it.
Now did you think you were going to be able to beat the dwarfs with your army, or did you think it was possible, or did you think that it wasn't going to be feasible with the small Tomb King's army?
With the Tomb Scorpion, you can beat any dwarf army. So I was pretty confident that I could roll them over. What I didn't expect was how long it would take, and you got to see a bit of that too.
Yeah, I think you were grinding out the dwarfs for about 3 hours in your campaign, because you had to go from you started out in your territory, right? And then you went to their capital.
Yeah.
And then you took out the next minor province as well.
Yep. just 3 hours of splitting them up and using the Tomb Scorpion to cheese them. And really, it was only like 3 battles, but you had to be so efficient. It just took forever.
Absolutely. And I also want to give a shout out to Jay Phoenix for saying hi in chat. Hi, Jay Phoenix. He asks, how much of Sotek's money do you have now?
Actually, quite a bit. I won't give the exact number, but like a lot. What's it? And it gets because I'm in Canada, so every time it feels like I'm gaining more when it converts to Canadian money, even though it's the same.
Yeah, and I was really hoping to win one of these challenges here, and if my wrist hadn't given out on me, I think I might have been able to catch up or pass Axiom. It's hard to say because in the end my run ended up. We'll cover that a little later, but yeah, the $150 prize that was available for the runs this time was definitely very enticing, but Sotek did say that not many people submitted runs, so the time limit must have definitely been a factor for people. I don't know how many people submitted runs for the speed runs that you did before. Do you remember?
I know that there were quite a few people. I know for the Emmerich run, I saw like at least 5 people posting publicly their run times.
Mm-hmm.
And then for the Skarsnik Belgar Creek run, that one also had. I remember there being quite a few, like a handful of public postings there. But yeah, I'm not too sure myself.
Yeah, I don't remember. I'm sure the community for the challenges has been less. Is growing, not as fast as Sotek would like, but and despite the prize pool, there was less people this time around because of the challenge, probably. I'm sure that you posted your Archon run with to turn 69, the nice run. You posted that pretty early on in the challenge. And it looked like at that point, either people watched your stream and saw how much time you put into it, or something, because nobody else really tried. Even Axiom didn't try to go after that one.
Yeah, I think because some people were posting, right, saying that that they were only getting like 20 turns in when they could recruit units.
Right.
I think that after the rules change and after that pretty good run, that might have turned them off of the Archon run, but I can't know for sure.
Yeah, and for the Emmerich run, there was again some people posting that they were getting to like turn 20, turn 40, but yeah, most people I guess dropped out at that point or had got a run to that point and then lost and decided not to do another one.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't blame them. It can be, it can sometimes still take hours, and I mean, even I only did the speed run with Skarsnik for a few days, but it definitely spent hours and countless retries. I don't know. I just felt like I feel like you don't get anywhere really, and it was harder. Like, it was a little bit more demoralizing for me to do the Skarsnik run, but maybe that's because I got to enjoy the campaign more as Emmerich, even though I was having to grind out so many battles. So in the end, you ended up fighting the dwarfs for 3 hours, and then you survived maybe another 3 hours after that, would you say, somewhere around there?
Yeah, I think it was an 8-hour run and the stream was like 10 hours. I went way too long on that stream.
Yeah, it was a very long stream. I was there with you for most of it, and yeah, it was crazy long, but still it only took you about a day, right? And for somebody who wants to put like a lot of time into the challenge, that's not too bad. And then you go over to Axiom and his runs. And we're talking 20, 30 hours. multiple days, countless battles. Like, I couldn't tell you how many battles I fought in that campaign, but it was a lot.
Yeah, I think the expectation is that we would have died at around turn 20.
For those who didn't get to see my last stream, I will load up the save now so you can kind of see the state of things. And let's take a look at comment from Daniel before we do that. Daniel says, I think it wasn't really about the people, but I think people had a good run and kept going further without submitting. I think they didn't post it because they either didn't want to end the run or saw you guys were already better and tried to even improve on their own.
Yeah. There's also the thing where just having to set up like a Twitch stream or posting to YouTube can be a lot of effort too.
Yeah, was that set in stone as a requirement, or did he say like that he was willing to, not take a stream?
I don't know if anything's I'm pretty sure he said that it needed to be posted publicly, but if I don't know, if something changed along the way, I went no.
Hey hey happy puppy, thanks for stopping in, especially after your long day and your surgery. I hope that you sleep well and feel better. Yeah, and it kind of shows like if an endurance run, like you kind of like feel that. I feel like, let's see the endurance run. Let's compare our runs real quickly. Well, I guess before we do that, I'll go over what we're looking at on my screen here. So this was my final battle against the Empire, turn 249. As you can see, I have a beat-up garrison and a beat-up army against four full Empire armies, basically, with multiple steam tanks, tons of great swords, hellblasters, mortars, and I managed to take out 3 out of the 4 armies, so I'm pretty happy with that. I think I could have done a few things better and maybe won it. It's so hard because on the legendary difficulty and with all the lords they have, basically every Empire unit was unbreakable. Like, once I ran out of units to like get rear charges with stuff, like everything just fought to the last man. It was super annoying. Oh my god, I just killed so many Empire troops, but and at this point in the run, the Empire was like the superpower. They had controlled most of the world, and the Badlands, and it was pretty bad situation for me. Whereas before, I had basically survived an onslaught of dwarfs and greenskins. The Empire at that point proved to be too big and too mighty and brought me down. And I did a similar strategy to you, where I took out Skarsnik pretty quick, or not Skarsnik, Sniksh pretty early on. Mm-hmm. And then sat back in my city, whereas Axiom took a while to do that, and he never took out Malice either, I think.
Yeah, I think he just sat back and built up, and also Malice was not very aggressive at all. From what I think he mentioned that in the Discord.
Yeah, and the as a result, he never had the dwarfs or the greenskins get super powerful and then lose everything, which is what happened in mine. Like, the dwarfs and the greenskins were both the most powerful faction in the world at one time, and then they both sent a bajillion armies at me, lost it all, and then died to somebody else, and then that person would get even more powerful. So it's interesting how the AI kind of played out at that scale of the campaign. Like, I felt like, just with my one little settlement in my corner of the earth, somehow I was directing the flow of the entire campaign map by having these factions throw so many armies at me. It was very strange campaign. And you guys can't see it right here, but all of this is owned by the Empire, so they just had like 200 settlements or something. And before that, like, the dwarfs were like controlled everything, and then before that, it was just an absurd campaign. That's like another comment from Daniel here. As a newbie, when I recorded a few of my runs, I would say it wasn't trouble. I didn't upload because I was trying to improve when the end dropped. But for myself with OBS, it was really a breeze. Yeah, and it's I agree, Daniel. I don't think it's that hard, but it's another barrier of entry, and so it may have stopped some people from getting into it. But at the same time, you kind of need video proof to make sure people aren't cheating, right? So there's got to be some kind of compromise there, right? What do you think, Enticity?
Yeah, like definitely, I think it's important to have that, just some sort of proof. But yeah, I'm not sure how to get around that barrier of entry. But yeah, I think also just like a lot of people seeing our runs might not have posted, even though they were doing a run. Just because we really got in early this time around, so we could set some.
Yeah, we were rearing to go. And
yeah,
the
well,
community. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, especially with the rule changes. So we had enough time to go over the rules and then begin our runs with some experience.
I think Axiom actually started his Imric run before the official rules were even changed all the way.
Oh, really?
I think so.
Okay. Like you predicted it, or what?
Well, there was talk about changing it to Imric, remember? But Sotek didn't officially change the rules for like a few days.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that's what happened.
Yeah.
And you can see here, I'm just giving the viewers a quick glance at the end of my Archon run looked like, turn 39. I think that was the highest before you did yours, and being besieged by the dwarfs, rebels, lizardmen, and a giant Bretonnian stack.
Yep. I think based on the RNG in these ones, I think it's sort of a shame that we didn't have a ton more submissions, because I think like a lot of our strategies were doable by anyone.
Yeah.
And then with enough runs, you just need some good RNG to get really far.
I think the cycle charging. Well, that's the thing. Like, I did try multiple runs on the Archon campaign without fighting the dwarves, so that I wouldn't have to cheese the battle super hard, just to see if I could get through it. And the highest I got was 39. So
yeah,
I think you really do need to cheese the AI a lot in these battles, in the endurance runs, as yours and mine showed, because you got really far in your Immic run too, and you got far in your Archon run by cycle charging with single entities, and I did too. Fought so many battles in one just using single entities and abusing the AI, and I feel like that is going to be a problem with a lot of different styles of runs that you do in Warhammer 2, because that's the most efficient way of beating the AI. So anytime you want to win a battle, that's how you're going to do it. And you can even win a lot of battles where you shouldn't win, like you in the case of fighting the dwarfs, or me in the case of fighting like giant dwarf stacks or whatever.
Yeah.
And it definitely creates a problem, I feel, for having a campaign run that's going to be fun for people.
Yeah. Well, for this type of run, the cheesing the AI I felt it was more prevalent than the speed runs, at least the speed runs that I ran, since when you're doing the speed run is in real time. So if you spend 3 hours cheesing dwarves, you still have to minimize the turn counter, but after that's been brought down to a minimum, then you just need to start executing things faster. So you start cutting out cheeses from the runs. But then it's just a lot. Then it gets difficult in another way. So I don't really have much of a solution for making this more having more broad appeal, I guess.
Yeah, For me, I think, I've spent time as a game designer, and so I think about these kinds of things, I guess, just naturally. And there's some things you could do, like make battles all auto-resolvable. Um, Try to avoid siege battles when because it's very easy to cheese the AI when you're attacking in a siege battle.
Yes, as we saw in the Belagar run.
And I guess another issue with this that comes into play is the issue I have with single entities in Total War Warhammer and how strong they are. Because without the single entities, it becomes much more difficult to abuse the AI. It's still doable with like Cav and stuff, but it's much more difficult because the Cav models are going to be getting lost, and Cav can't really push through enemies without taking losses. Whereas with using single entities, even just a Lord, you can get half the enemy to chase you, and then shoot the army with missiles or charge them with Cav or chariots or whatever you have.
Yeah.
And these are the same kind of strategies we see in multiplayer battles all the time, right, Enticity?
Yeah, for sure. That's why we have so many rules that limit single entities.
Yeah, so you get it gets even worse when you're in single player. It's the point where you can take on 4 armies, if you have the right kind of single entities and magic support or chariots or whatever.
Yeah, like the Imric run, it was 3 dragons and a chariot could take on 4 armies of greenskins.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the 3 dragons and the chariot could take on 4 armies of greenskins pretty easily by just running around the map.
Yeah, there's just so much you could do, and it's really hard to stop people from doing that. Like, don't think trying to enforce attacking rules in the campaign run is really good, ideal solution. You need
or they could have something that limits single entities.
You could,
just
yeah. That's one thing I proposed, was either like making battles auto-resolve only, so that you can't cheese battles, or making it so that you can't use single entities other than like maybe your Lord, and even then, maybe you can't put them on a mount or something. Or if they did get a mount, it's only like a horse mount or something like that. Obviously, then there's still problems like corner camping with the dwarfs. They don't have any single entities, but they can still corner camp with shit ton of artillery and troll hammers. So it's just
the AI.
It's so hard to come up with rules that aren't going to result in just cheesing the AI, and having a run be fun.
Yeah, but I do think corner camping the AI is an art in and of itself. Because there's different levels of efficient you can get with that type of playstyle, clumping them up and getting the AoEs just right.
Yeah, absolutely. I had definitely some beautiful battles against the Skaven where I would just roast the entire army with one overcasted burning head, and those battles do feel nice. And that's actually a good segue into the point I wanted to make next, which was the parts of the campaign run that were fun. So let's go over your Marathi run and your Archon run and talk about what you felt was fun for you.
Also, sort of on topic, but the fact that I felt more free to be able to stream the run was pretty fun. Since before, the other runs were so heavily based on strategy that it felt like if you streamed it, you'd be giving away all your secrets.
Right. Yeah, because the speedrun techniques were very reproducible, because there was not much battle fighting involved or anything like that. Yeah. So that makes sense.
Yeah, having like people come in to watch was very fun. Asking questions about what was even going on. Why are you 100 turns in with just your capital?
Yeah, I got some of that.
Yeah, in terms of in terms of like the run itself, I do think I do quite enjoy cheesing the AI. and getting that as efficient as possible. Sort of like figuring out the Scorpion strategy. Although 3 hours is a bit too much.
Yeah.
And with the Marathi one, kiting around the map with shades was a fun experience. And trying to get that efficient too, since I'm pretty sure just corner camping with the shades would have been less effective.
Oh yeah, the campaign for me got a lot more fun when I got chariots and I could just get the enemy to clump up on me and drop tons of AoE spells, as opposed to running around with my Footlord for 30 minutes.
Yeah, I think battles that don't involve, like, battles that involve maximizing your AoE, those felt the best.
Yeah, for sure. So that we'll chalk that up as a good point to the run, and when you're able to have a campaign where you basically you're maximizing AoE, because then you're fighting, and I think that goes back to kind of what makes the core of a fun campaign experience, which is fighting against odds that are against you, because you're fighting either greater numbers of troops or you're fighting better quality troops. Usually it's more fun when you're fighting, or both. Yeah, absolutely. I'd say usually more fun when you're fighting a greater quantity of enemies, but having the combination can also be very fulfilling too, unless you're like stuck grinding out, I don't know, 20 steam cannons in a battle or something, and it can get a little excessive maybe.
Yeah, there's also the thing where the AI can sometimes send very similar armies at you, and you end up fighting like the same battle over and over. I know for my Imric run, a lot of Black Orcs and Big Gun, or Stone Idols, Rock Idols. Rogue Idols.
You'd think they'd be called Rock Idols, but now we gotta make it Rogue Idols.
Yeah. But Rogue Idols and Black Orcs and Giants. I had that Orc army sent at me like 5 times. And just playing the same battle over and over was a bit much.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I felt like I was fighting a lot of the same Empire armies with Luminarchs and Steam Tanks over and over again. I was always afraid when the AI would like mix it up. I'd be like, oh, please no, don't have like 1,000,000 handgunners or thunderers or something. God, I almost lost my dragon to a troll hammer one time.
Oh yeah, the dragon dies so easily.
Yeah, looking at chat real quick. Oh, hi Poison Ducky, and also Daniel left one more comment. I think for many people, Archon was really bad, myself included. I just saw that I had no power at all, little place to scale, unlike with Imric and Marathi. And I get that. I think you dropped a comment at one point, Enticity, talking about how your army as Archon just sucks.
Yep.
Is that about what you said?
Me or
yeah,
commenter? You. Oh, I don't know if I might have said it somewhere. I was getting delirious at the end of my run, but
well, I think you dropped. You mentioned it like in Discord or in another run. Like you didn't mention it that run, but you did mention something like that, I thought.
Yeah, it's definitely because he relies on having 1,000,000 skeletons. The only power unit, like strong unit you have in the army is if you replace Arkan with the Tomb King. And the Scorpion, which can cheese infantry to no end, but that's about it.
Yeah, but I do agree. I had a lot more fun in the Imric run than I did in the Archon run. Because we mentioned earlier, we got to use so many AOE spells and Dragon Breath, things like that.
There's a lot more variety too.
Yeah,
different factions, different like you even got to face Empire. I think that one was a lot more interesting. The Arkan one was sort of one technical section with the cheese, and then just passing turns until the end of it.
Yeah. The length of the Archon run I felt like was pretty good for an endurance run. Like if you could do an all-day marathon, and then have that be about the length that it would take, that seems like for me, I think that might be a good length for an endurance style run. And it is a lot for some people, but it does also actually feel like a marathon at that point.
Yeah, I think what's it when like we were proposing times, like turn times to force an end to the runs. We put it at around like what? It was like 50 to 100 turns were the numbers
Yeah, because
that we
I
gave.
got to. It depends how many battles you're fighting,
Yeah.
too. Because like I got to turn 44 at my first day of the Archon run, and you got to turn 88 with Marathi. Um, Granted, you're a little faster than me because you were coming off of doing speed runs, so you're used to doing things fast, and I'm used to taking my
Yeah.
time, being very methodical in campaigns. So
But still,
but still, yeah, in that range of about 50 to 100
yeah.
seems to be the
Or
amount
like
of turns you can get done in a
1 to 2
marathon day.
days.
Yeah, or 1 to 2. Yeah, yeah. Cool. The let's see. What else did you feel like was fun about the runs?
Let's see. Sort of picking your own strategy was interesting. I think with the Emmerich run, the three of us, you, me, and Axiom, sort of had slightly different approaches to how we went about things. Mostly when we decided to kill Snickage.
Mm-hmm.
And with the Arkan run, we sort of had different styles too, where I very much focus on eliminating the dwarves.
Yeah.
So I think having that diversity was pretty fun.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah, so having and that, yeah, I think that kind of goes hand in hand with having a good style of or being able to actually like play out the campaign, because as your campaign progresses, ideally everybody's campaign should be a little bit different. You get different random events, you fight different battles with different opponents. And the randomness, along with having more agency in your own unique agency that you put on things, makes for an interesting campaign generally.
yeah. Like basically, you want the Total War Warhammer intended experience, but just a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, right. So it would be really cool if in the future we could have some kind of endurance run, because a lot of people voted for an endurance style run. But if we just had one, we don't want something that's going to take 30 hours. And we also don't want to use being stuck with this terrible army like Archons, where you're stuck using a Tomb Scorpion to cycle charge the enemy for 3 hours.
Yeah, I was actually thinking it would be interesting to have like a mod, like one of those mods that doubles the unit sizes of like your enemies.
Mm-hmm.
That would be that would have been a more interesting challenge than limiting our own armies, since you're sort of cutting off options there.
Yeah. Yeah, I generally like to see. I think, well, this is going off on a tangent a little bit, but I think the ideal way to play a Warhammer campaign is with the Shogun 2 style, which is more enemies but no invisible stat buffs. Because on Legendary, the AI gets both huge economic bonuses and they get tons of invisible stat buffs. And everybody hates you in diplomacy. There's just all kinds of things like that. Whereas, if you're just encountering more enemies, then it's like, great, I got more people to fight. I got more armies to stomp. I get more gold for winning these battles, and I get more experience. But in turn, I have to defeat a lot more enemies. And I can use the same tactics and strategies that I would in a multiplayer battle. The only difference is that I'm fighting more enemies, albeit less intelligent ones.
Yeah. Yeah. To sort of continue on this tangent before going back, it does feel like you lose some options. Like for example, you can't hit the AI's public order on legendary difficulty.
Mm-hmm.
Because they have so many buffs to it. It feels like you're losing mechanics
Yeah,
with the
trying
higher difficulties.
trying to hurt their gold income is pretty much useless as well.
Yeah, and also having your own economy hit uh, has the same effect. But that's just Warhammer things, not really related to Sotex challenges.
Yeah, the reason I talk about it is because I do want to see more types of challenges like this in the future, and I want to help improve upon something like that so that it's going to be fun for everybody. Because and hopefully, find a way around some of the problems that we've encountered in this style run, because obviously there's a lot of problems that we ran into here.
From minor to a little bit larger, but
Yeah.
it still worked out. I'd say.
Yeah.
Nothing catastrophic after the rule changes.
Yeah, like I'm proud of my Immerk run, in how many battles I won and against odds that were against me. But at the same time, it's like, what would I want to spend that amount of time in the run again? It's like, I don't know. It's a little bit questionable, especially considering that a lot of the battles were very samey. My amount of epic battles were definitely less numerous than the amount of grindy, annoying battles that I had to go through. And I don't know if I'm sure that your Archon run was even worse in that regard.
Well, yeah. But at least it ended pretty quickly. One stream.
Yeah, exactly. It's nice that you can at least get it. You were, one and done in one day, even though it was long, and you had a lot of hard battles that you didn't get to use any super fun mechanics on. I'm just thinking, like, if you'd even had like the Scroll of the Black Horror as an AoE spell, your run would have probably been a lot more fun for you.
Like having any magic item that does AoE was a huge boon for these runs.
Yeah. So I guess we've covered a lot of bases now. If there's any questions we'll take any questions from the chat in a minute here. Do you have any thoughts on where you want to see speedrunning going, endurance runs going in the future of Total Warhammer series, or do you feel like there's too many contradictions in the way that the game plays out, basically?
Well, there's like a mix of like all of these runs sort of have like fun sections of Warhammer sprinkled around, like optimizing, cheesing the AI, or I guess none of these ones have really had any like building an empire. You didn't really have to manage too many settlements for any of these ones, but but like like if you look at all the runs that we've done so far, there are a huge variety of play styles and how the battles are done and the different cheeses that you do. So I think that's really interesting, and I would like to see like more challenges to come out, because we've already seen that there's a lot of variety there. Like the Belgar, Skarsnik, and Queek challenge, like all three of those runs played out completely differently. Where the Queek was like, it was a very technical run. We had to execute very quickly to get the timer down. Or the Belgar one, which was all about being very efficient with your units. And the Skarsnik one, where you had to have a lot of campaign knowledge to get the confederations going correctly.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a lot there that I'm interested to see explored.
Yeah, that's all true. It's still hard for me to have great hopes for the speedrunning side of things, just because it doesn't seem to interest me if I can't like fight a battle or use a really cool mechanic. Because the campaign, the way in which you interact with the campaign map is fairly limited for most races. Like with high elves, you can actually affect diplomacy of everybody, and I feel like that opens up a lot of possibilities, right? But it's hard to do that with a lot of other factions, or equivalent things with a lot of other factions.
Yeah, I think so.
But I do still want to see where things go in the future. So same as you, I'm very curious to see how things play out. And having different, I definitely agree. Having different play styles that can flourish is kind of definitely a peak goal of game design, in my opinion.
Yeah. But yeah, you do very much prefer. I could tell that you very much prefer the endurance ones and more long form things. What specifically do you enjoy about it over speed runs?
I enjoy the improvisation of having to deal with situations that change as they come up, and how your decision making that will be affected by differences in run. Speedruns always almost come down to the same series of actions over and over again. There's and you're just repeating it and making it more efficient. There's very little improvisation and reacting. I like having to react to things and making those decisions. Personally, when I play a game, I like having to make snap decisions.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and what's it? Having having there be a little bit of variety in ones was definitely a new thing for this challenge specifically. So I think, and I think that was one of the goals for Sotek, I think, or at least one of a hope that he might have, where where people have to act on the fly more. That's why we had the endurance one. But yeah, I don't know. Do you have any ideas that of how we can have that same effect for future ones without just having just doing another endurance one?
Which effect of which effect
of having to act on the fly, since the speed ones had a lot less of that. It had more like planning out the full run.
Having to act on the fly means that something unexpected happens usually, or something that you are not, that you think is a possibility, but you're not necessarily going to be 100% expecting it. So there needs to be a degree of spontaneity in the run, and with speedruns it's difficult to achieve that unless unless you're trying to speedrun something that plays out differently every time. But most speedrunners don't like that kind of, they don't like randomness in their speedruns, right? At least in other games, like randomness is generally thought of as a bad thing.
Yeah, and typically on the low end.
Yeah, exactly. Like for instance, in my my Emmerich run where I got to 249 and Axiom 1 close to 300, the way our campaigns played out was totally different, and as a result, that had probably the greatest impact on him winning was the fact that he could he was in a much better position in terms of the enemies he was facing, whereas I had to face off against one giant enemy over and over again. His enemies were far weaker. Mm-hmm. So, but that's all a matter of how the campaigns played out. And like my run was very interesting in how the campaign played out. Like I've never seen an AI factions get that strong and fall over and over again. And I still made it very far in my run. So I don't consider it a bad run or anything, even though I was perhaps unlucky compared to Axiom. So in that regard, I consider it a good, how it played out to be good. in terms of how we can achieve that, I think having an open-ended goal can be good. For example, having to race for Carrick 8 Peaks is a pretty close-ended goal. Like, you just have one goal. If you were to, say, make a pirate challenge where you have to play as a seaborne faction, or you can only navigate by sea and you can't land other than to, like, attack cities, and you have to, like, say, raise all the major settlements, or raise get a certain number of gold. Like, that's a much more open-ended challenge and is more likely to lead to a more random set of encounters between different players.
Yeah.
So I think something like that might be the way to go. And really, and in closing thoughts, I would say that it's hard for me to know. I don't think I do know that what the ideal solution would be. I think that, like, game design, like any kind of social science, is about experimentation. You have to experiment and take notes and see what works and see what doesn't, and try to infer conclusions based on what happened.
Yeah, and sort of a point for related to the game design concept. I do think some level of playtesting for these challenges would be a pretty good benefit.
We were the playtesters and the performers in this case.
Yeah, so that was interesting. But yeah, I'm not sure how what the plan is for that to be how that would be handled in the future. But yeah, some because a lot of unexpected things came out very quickly, right as we started the runs.
Yeah, I'm curious. Legend of Total War, makes all these videos that and cheeses the crap out of the AI and his stuff all the time. And I'm curious to see what his thoughts are, because I feel like we gave his cheese a good run for its money in our campaign runs. Especially your performance with the Tomb Kings. And then I remember at one point Sotek was like, you guys all killed Snitch without or you all killed Snitch, annihilated him without ever recruiting any more units.
Yeah, like, we're basically doing what was assumed to be impossible.
Exactly.
Even partway into the run too.
Yeah. That's the power of possibly the power of single entities, possibly the dumbness of the AI, showing that almost anything is possible. One of those, yep. or the combination of those two factors.
Yeah, but I think that I would like to see less in the future. Is the effect where to be more efficient, you need to put in a lot more time. Like what's it? Like the we'll take just the scorpion cheese for example. The most optimal strat is to spend a few hours every battle to be successful. Whatever can reduce situations like that would be interesting. Where to be more efficient, you have to do something in a way that takes a little bit less time. I'm not sure how that would be achieved though. So.
What do you mean exactly?
So not exactly like the speed running. Like, it's not like I'm looking specifically for speed running, but for example, like cheesing by clumping up the AI, the AI, and then throwing down an AOE. I'd say cheesing in that form is nice, but cheesing in the form of slowly picking off targets in a siege battle, or slowly picking off targets with dragons one at a time, that feels a little bit less satisfying to play, and it would be a little bit less welcome for me with in the future.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point, because when you're using things like the AoE attacks and trying to get value, it feels like you're kind of playing the game the way it was meant to be played. Like, you want the enemy to clump up somewhere and you want to hit them with an AoE attack. Like, that's just kind of a simple hammer and anvil, but instead of using like cavalry, you're using artillery or bombardment or something, right? That's like one of the classic tactics are in Total War series and in classical battle in general is using hammer and anvil tactics.
Mm-hmm.
And so things like that, right? Like you said, like getting the enemy to clump up and hitting them with a massive AoE spell. There's setup, but there's also big payoff. Whereas using your lord on foot to get the enemy to break off a single unit, and then using your mobile element to go kill that and rinse and repeat for an hour or whatever is there's quite a setup there, but the payoff is very small.
Yeah, I think that hits the you really nailed it there with that.
Yeah, so exactly, like cheese, right, is a relative term, right? We're all just playing the game, and we're all trying to have fun with it one way or another, and fun ends up being very subjective, because a lot of people don't like playing dwarfs or against dwarfs or coast or playing against coast, whereas me, I love playing coast and I don't mind fighting coast, and I love playing dwarves and I don't mind fighting the dwarfs. Whereas some people just absolutely can't stand it. So what do you do in that case? And the same thing can be applied to things like speedruns and endurance runs. And so we have to kind of figure out what most people like and dislike and try our best to make something work in between.
Yeah, sounds sounds about right, but yeah, I'm interested to see how close we can get to that type of ideal.
Yeah, I mean that's the whole point of having different challenges, right? Experimentation, and hopefully having something even more fun in the future.
Yeah, and we've only been through 3 different challenges now, right?
I don't know. I only showed up for that last one with the 8 peak challenge. What was the other one before that?
I think just Eltharion and
oh, that's right, Grom, trying to who could do the final battle the quickest.
Yeah.
That one was entertaining too. Yeah, right. So there's been kind of 3 different style of challenges in a way, and getting seeing some trends appear, but also discovering what's fun and what isn't.
Yeah. So there's definitely a lot more space to explore there.
For sure. I just want to. Poison Ducky brought this question and comment up earlier, and I didn't get to it till now. He says, I want to see a speedrun on the fastest time to take all territory immortal empires with a specific lord. Oh, God. Well, Axiom, I think, is your...
I've seen some of those.
Yeah. It's not my style, but I'm sure if people want to see that, there's definitely people that will do that kind of challenge. He said, a speedrun, yet still a marathon. I suppose that would be a little too RNG based. Actually, it's not, Ducky. Like people do that all the time. People did that in Medieval too, and could win the campaign in 10 turns or something, using Genoa or something like that. I remember. And he says he agrees with me that he wants to see theme challenges, and I agree. I think theme challenges are cool. We just need to make sure that we have the right settings and rules in the challenge to make it fun.
What do you mean by theme challenges exactly?
Well, I think he was referring to when I said a pirate theme challenge where...
Okay.
I mean, you could say that all of our challenges have been themed, like the theme of endurance, the theme of defending your city as quickly as possible, the theme of racing to character APs. Those are all, especially character APs, it's definitely a theme. I think, the theme is just maybe the style of the run. It's not always the same style of run, like endurance versus speed run, or maybe, those are, let's see. Would I call those themes or would I call those styles? How would I differentiate the two? Now we're getting into terminology. I guess the reason I thought a pirate run would be cool is because it has a lot of RNG in terms of what wrecks you come across on the ocean, and you can play different factions that could be ocean-born. and you know, people might take different paths across the ocean or encounter different things. So I didn't and I just thought, you know, it's fun to it be different. It's not something we usually see, having to have only a seaborne, you know, army in campaign. It's not something that we usually see.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyways, any last thoughts before we close things out?
Well, I think the runs are still very fun to play at the very least. And I've been a spectator here and there for a few of other people's runs, so I'd say it's a pretty good watch too. Although I wouldn't sit down for 10 hours and watch a run, it was fun to be a part of it and just tuning in. And I think there's a lot of potential for the future.
Yeah, I agree. It's fun. It's been fun watching people. It's been fun participating, having viewers, streaming, seeing seeing what other people come up with. So hopefully that we'll keep refining formulas and get some, you know, even more interesting runs that more people can participate in and will want to participate in the future.
Mm-hmm.
At least that's my desire. Get more people. Get things that more people will enjoy.
Yeah, it's nice to have people, frequently commenting in the Discord, talking about their runs and their different strategies.
Exactly.
So, yeah, having more of that would be a plus for sure.
All right. Well, I think we'll close it out with that. And thank you so much for joining me and talking to me about your experience, Enticity.
Cool, and thank you for inviting me, man.
Yeah.
This was a fun stream to be on.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. Pleasure having you. And congratulations on your win again.
Thanks. I really thought you were going to take it with the Imric run.
Oh man, I was feeling good. I really was. Until the Empire, like it was definitely touch and go. But then the Empire, when the AI is sending that many armies at you, there gets to a point where 3 dragons just isn't enough.
Yeah, it's really weird how quickly you can lose that run to the Imric one.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you don't know what's coming at you a lot of the time. Like, in your run, you got surrounded by so many people, and it gets hard to make the right choice when you're fighting so many people. You don't know what's coming next.
Yeah.
But anyways, thanks again, and I hope everybody who's watching has a good one. We'll see you in the next video.